Hello and welcome to In the Pocket. My name's Jonny.
And my name's Chris.
Two totally average bass players, and we're here to talk all about that bass, as well as answering your questions at home. Each week we take a look at the latest news and maybe break down some tones, or to give you the lowdown on the low end. It'd be good if I could do that intro the same every week, wouldn't it? But I refuse.
It would be good. How many episodes in now are we?
80 something. This is
That's quite a lot, actually.
And it has changed, to my credit, but I refuse to do it the same. I keep you on your toes,
Thank you.
Speaking of your toes, how are they?
They're doing all right. They might be due a bit of a clipping, but I can either confirm nor deny. Head over to patreon.com/ bonus
that extra content. Can you start clipping them now, just so that like every so often we see like
just as one pings across the screen?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it
Get
might
one in my
ping
eye.
off the lens, the camera.
Yeah, like boing. Oh, I brought my camera. Great.
Yeah.
With my nuclear, made of lead toenails. Lovely.
How have you been?
Let's change this topic immediately. I'm doing good. How are you, Jonathan Dibble? What's been going on with you?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. I've had a very pedal-focused week, weirdly. Lots of stuff arriving. Talk about that later, maybe, a little bit. As I alluded to in the intro, we said that we talk about, maybe bring some tones along, and that is what we've done today. And part of the episode is going to finally we've both brought tones along to talk about, which is fun.
We've not done that in a while, have we?
I know,
we've slacked on that part.
I know, and I always really like that segment. So yeah, we're going to talk about some pedals later on. Went and saw my first ever country gig. That's a lie. That's a lie. I've been to one before, but that was all like covers. This wasn't originals, not like a proper gig. Yeah, and you obviously had a similar experience as we both met
2 days prior.
Yes, podcast alumni. Jordan Ray Landers was in Old Blighty's touring with Corey Kent, so got to meet all those guys and meet Jordan himself. And what a lovely man! What
a lovely man! Really, what a nice chap. That's the only way I'd describe it. Lovely. Yeah, it was really good. I tell you what, that band is dirty.
Oh my god,
there's some dirty tones going around. In I thought, obviously you see Jordan's stuff on Instagram and you go, yeah, it's like thick, dirty, got a really gnarly bass tone, and you'd think, oh yeah, but I bet obviously it's not going to be like that live when you actually watch it. And then while I was watching them in this quite big room, like an 850 cap venue, all I could hear was I could really pick out just this angry wasp that was sat in the mix, just this with the big booty Judy and his like G freestyle jazz bass body by, is it Decibel?
Yeah,
that's the one. Great sound. Tuned to BEAD, which I didn't know until he told me as well.
I played it for a second.
Did you?
Yeah. He was like, hey, I was like, can I see the bass? And he's like, yeah. And pulled it out and I held it and had a little look, had a little play. But yeah, very, very cool indeed. It sounded thunderous, like you said, just clanking away, punching through. But yeah, that whole band is so talented. Crazy. I was thoroughly enjoying myself.
Absolutely. And it was nice that we both kind of, we both got to see someone who's been on the podcast as well, which is obviously pretty rare. I know you've been to NAMM and you bumped into a few people, but most of the time we know this is just an online thing, isn't it? So it's nice to sort of break that barrier down and actually see a person in the real world, which is very, very lovely. And the band was great. Jordan was lovely. He gave me one of his big booty Judies that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Nice. And I think that might be the next YouTube video.
Exciting.
But cool pedal, man. Really, I clicked it on. The first thing I did was I went, oh, I could get in trouble with this.
Uh-oh. Just tuner, quad cortex, big booty Judy.
Exactly. Not going to capture it. Put it in the effects loop. Give it its own dedicated slot. There it is, mine's. It's just out of reach. It's
for
It's over there.
People watching, this is the pedal by Backburner Noise, which is Jordan's pedal company. This is essentially like a Rat with a blend and a Rat and a Turbo Rat all in one. And I get comments about this pedal all the time because on my because it's on my pedal board. The sound guys, when they're coming like setting up around me, they look at the board and they go, huh. Like if I just hear them go, huh, or they'll ask about it and be like, "What's that? The big booty Judy." I have to kind of explain it,
Yeah, that. To be fair, again, we'll talk about it a bit more in a minute. But that pedal is really inspiring me to like make an analog board. Mm-hmm. I don't know what for, but
fun
for fun. Ugh. I don't do things for fun. Don't be silly. Don't be silly for me. But yeah, like make something like, get put the Bass Rig Super Vintage back on a board. Mm-hmm. Maybe I've got the old triple shot, but maybe I'll try and get my hands on the newer one. I don't own a compressor pedal though. A compressor would be very important to me. But
well, that's what Jordan was using, was the Ampeg clone pedal, the Origin.
No. He was using the SVT VT one. The one that's like the one that the Sans amp.
Like was he?
He told
I thought he said he was using the other one. Well, that's good because I prefer that pedal.
Yeah, he was using that plus a new Backburner pedal that I don't think we're allowed to talk about because I don't think he wants people knowing about that yet. But very cool, like a chorus and stuff like that. But yeah, all round, great tone, and I think I might build something just for like a laugh, basically.
Do it, man. It's fun. It is fun. Speaking of fun, in this episode, we have taken to our Patreon and asked people to give us some questions and topics they want to cover. So we're going to be talking about a few of those and then continuing the conversation later on over on the Patreon exclusive episode, which we'll talk about a bit later on. First of all, would you like to move on to our first questionos?
I would, but before we do, I've just remembered something that made me laugh.
Oh no!
In our previous episode, our Jean-Claude Van Damme special, I'm going to talk about the pinned comment.
I can't remember.
Do you not remember? Someone had basically commented, saying 18 minutes of useless waffle before they talk about the bassist.
Oh yeah.
And basically, when we do episodes like that, and when we do episodes about like ranking bass brands and stuff like that, you can tell that it gets pushed out to more than just our subscribers and regular listeners, because people clearly come in and watch the video who aren't really familiar with us or the fact that this is even a podcast. Because, and the reason why we know this is because they are livid with us in the comments, because we take so long to get round to the topic of the video, and it's like, dude, it's not a 10-minute YouTube video, it's a podcast.
Why don't we just raw dog it from now on and just go straight, no intros, no small talk, or long talk, at the start. Let's just go straight in and just answering the question. No context.
I listened to a podcast that's recently started doing that. I'll show you. They don't have an intro. The episode just starts like mid-conversation with the guest. It'll start with the host sort of asking a question that sounds like it's already partway into the conversation, but it's really interesting because you're in. You lock in straight away because you'll just hear like, what do you think about the episode will literally start with like, what do you think about this, by the way? And it'll just begin. It's very clever. But I don't think we could do that. And then obviously, famously, everyone's best mate, Joe Rogan. He doesn't have an intro. It just kind of starts, doesn't it?
You kind of don't need to, do you? You don't need to introduce people.
No, you don't. No, you don't need to when you've got, like it or not, the biggest podcast in the world by quite a long way.
Yeah. Well, we might get there. We might get there one day.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Where's our Spotify deal? Come on.
Yeah, come on. Right. First question is from Eric over on our Patreonos, who has asked, let me get it up.
I've got it.
And then the question.
I'm up.
Do you want to say it then?
I'll do it. Yeah, I'm up. Let's go.
Come on.
He's asked us to rank these in order of what impacts your tone the most to the least. and he's given us a lot of options. And I think, actually, to be honest, the last one is the most important. So
That's at the top of my list.
I knew it. I'm in your head. I know how you think, you child. So anyway, I've just punched my desk. So he said basically rank these in order, and the options are strings, pickups, torn wood, amp, speaker cabinet, touch/feel, yes please, attack (brackets, pick, slap, finger style).
Oh dear, sorry.
The room, signal chain, YouTube subscribers. So Johnny's obviously led with YouTube subscribers.
Yeah, 100%.
What do you think? What impacts have you got? Which one do you think really, really impacts the tone a lot? I've got some initial thoughts.
I mean, they all impact the tone. Let's say that. But for me, I've actually put attack at the start. So this is essentially like how you are playing the bass, and I think that you can get a long way with attack. Like some people are like, I've seen people go like, oh, why aren't I getting that like that genty like dark glass kind of sound? I've got all the gear, and they're like, boop, 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 boop. They're just playing so light with their fingers. I'm like, you have to flipping
spank the string,
slam that thing. Like it's all about the attack, and like so much of sound. Like I started the YouTube channel because I was like, I want to prove that you can get good sound out of cheap gear through doing that, and giving it some beans.
When are you planning on achieving that goal?
When I'm dead.
When I'm dead.
Yes. Similarly,
fair point. Yeah.
I've put touch and feel next to that because I kind of feel like when we say touch and feel, now I've kind of taken this as like, well, now I'm questioning myself as to whether I think it means what it means. I took it as like the setup of the bass and like, I don't know, because touch. How did you take that one?
Touch and feel and stuff for me is like really like adjacent to attack. I think like how
that's why I put them together.
Because touch and feel can also be like hand placement. Because attack is for me, attack is the actual physical moment of the string being hit, with a pick, your thumb, your fingers, and then the touch and the feel for me is like, are you over by the bridge pickup? Are you up by the neck? Are you trying to palm mute it? All these kind of things. I think I'm going to agree. I do think if you were just a plain old DI with nothing else on it, if I was building it up from nothing to top, I think the actual how you play the bass is probably the most important thing. Because if you just take a regular bass and then play all the way up by the neck joint, and then play all the way down or up, depending on your outlook on life, by that bridge pickup or the actual bridge, you're going to get a massive difference. Same with pick, your thumb, a slap, fingerstyle. They're all massive. Next for me, strings. I'm going to go for because I think so because like nice set of brand new stainless steel round wound strings played in the exact same way. Let's just say standard fingerstyle by the net pickup. Completely different if you then swap that for like a 10-year-old set of flats that are all dirty.
Yeah. So I looked at this slightly differently. I looked at strings as in like different like brands of string, like types of string. Because I agree, the life of the string is night and day. Like
I viewed it as the actual like category of string, nickel, steel, flats, new strings, old strings, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
After that, I really do think it blurs quite a lot for me.
Yeah, and I think that some of them are, not sure.
I think the next two, and then after that, I'm not really that bothered. Really, is pickups because a P-bass pickup and a Music Man pickup sound very different, and you know, an active Spectre preamp and then like a gold foil fat super tubby sounding EBO style pickup are going to sound very different. And then the last one, little bit controversial, and I'll explain why, because this has changed something for me. Speaker cabinet.
Interesting.
Yeah, because
So, go on.
I've been really I've been really not satisfied with the cab sims in the Quad Cortex, the stock ones, where you can control the speaker placement and the mic like you can on all of the Neuro DSP plugins and all that sort of stuff. And I've always had it on and been like, it's just something not right. Like nothing. It's not like the captures or third-party IRs or anything like that. Just the standard. You click the cabinet, you click the bass menu, and they all load up. And I'm like, what is it? And you're messing around with like they've got everything from vintage 8x10, 1x15. They've got 2 dark glass cabs that are like really scooped and bright. They've got like a really martially mid-range forward one that's like super like Lemmy inspired. All these kind of things. They've got like a high watt kind of cab, I think, as well. And I'm like, what is it that's changing the tone? Like, I'm not liking it. And I finally realized it's because inside the cab menu is a low pass and a high pass that you can control. And as soon as I figured that out, and I just did, under 65 hertz, above 3K, and it just rounded it off. For me, turning that on and turning that off, as in the cab sim with that added bit, massive change in the tone. Because it's just for me, scraped away the excess either side of the frequency spectrum, and it's just like tightened and focused the sound. And then I was turning off the cab and turn the cab on with everything else remaining the same. And it was massive differences to me because I finally managed to just get that EQ control in there. Because that is all what a cab sim is. The speaker cabinet is just a big old EQ curve. That's all.
Yeah, of course. It's taking a lot of that harshness away, isn't it?
Exactly. But because it's a full range signal, if you want it, you can have the full 20 hertz to 20K of information. And I wasn't liking that because that's not what a real bass cabinet does. When you mic a bass cab up, you get nowhere near as much treble as when you listen to it on something like a Quad Cortex. So tightening that up, it's made a really big difference. And it's made me like so much happier with my tone inside that particular preset. So for me, speaker cabinet, long way. Like just think of the difference between big old SVT 810 and then like Ampeg B15. A lot of that is the cab.
Yes. But would you say that like different types of amps and heads, because I put amp above speaker cabinet. I got pickups, amp, pickups, strings, then speaker cabinet on my list. Because I've interchanged speaker cabinets a lot in the gigs I'm doing when I'm using other people's gear or festival gear.
Okay.
And you do get different results, obviously, but mostly I'm never like, oh, this is awful. Oh, this sounds terrible. I'm always like, oh, this is fine.
This has got a neodymium magnet in it.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of like my passion level as well, like the speaker cabinet is, I love cabs, but this is the least sexy of all of the bits of gear.
Yeah, and I guess I kind of agree. See, it's different for me, though, because you were just saying about you go somewhere and there's a different cab, festivals, that kind of thing. I'm direct nearly all the time. Nearly 95% of the time, I am direct. So for me, the cab sim's never changed. Even when I'm like messing around with a different amp inside my digital modeling workstation, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll try the Mesa Boogie 400 Plus. I'll try the vintage high watt. I'll try an SVT. I've kind of always ran it into the vintage 8x10 cab sim in the Quad Cortex because it's just like, it's an 810. It's an 8x10. That's just what works.
And tweaking a cab sim is a lot less fun than tweaking an amp sim. You know,
Oh,
like
it's nowhere near as fun. Sitting in the menu and going, "Oh, do I want? I need to stop doing this voice." If you sound like this, I'm sorry. I'm not mocking you. This is like a long running homage to Jeremy Clarkson because he used to do this on Top Gear. Like, oh, actually, yeah, messing around with like a cab sim IR or an IR menu in an amp sim or a piece of software.
boring.
Even if it sounds great, it's just boring. It's just boring. Whereas if you've got the head part, the preamp, you're like, oh, do I engage the contour switch? Oh, there's a bright switch.
Yeah.
How about we start messing?
There's more character, you know, to that.
Let's increase the input gain but reduce the output. Like,
I'm going to go through quickly the rest of my list.
Yeah. The rest don't really bother me.
No, because then we've got. Yeah, I've put room, signal chain, tone woods. Room, I think, obviously the room.
We should not comment on the tone wood part. Oh no, the internet is not kind to people who bring that up.
I did it in the video the other day, and I haven't got a comment about it yet.
Oh weirdly. Wow! I remember like loads of viral videos years and years ago of people being like, the frequency response. Again, I'm doing it again. Like, the frequency response of Canadian maple.
It has to be Canadian.
It has to be Canadian.
Like
Canadian
the room obviously changes the sound. Oh, and it does have a big difference. But in terms of what I can control, I can't really control that in a way. You know?
Yeah, I think the room one is almost like a yes, of course, it impacts the tone. But it's almost not worth putting it on the list because you can change your strings, you can have different pickups, you can have different. You could have two basses, one that's maple, one that's swamp ash. I don't know, different signal chains, different levels of YouTube subscription size. But the room you're in is the room you're in, unless you want to go. Hi everyone. I kind of like my tone a little bit more. Like a couple of 100 meters down the street in this other bar. Could we all just go there?
Yeah. And like I get it in this room here, like every day it sounds different in terms of like, and even in these headphones, it sounds different every day. Like I'll pick it up and be like, oh, it sounds like shit today. Oh, next day, oh, it sounds amazing. It's just,
but that could also just be the information you're
100%
like, receiving. Because I'm very aware that my ears lie to me, especially while I'm playing. Burn
them all.
Burn them. Like, the voice. It's the voices. It's not my bass tone. It's the voices we need to think about. But I'm absolutely certain. Like 2 hours into a wedding gig, I will tell you, gun to my head, the intonation's gone on my bass, and it's not. It's just like my ears have fatigued over the course of 2 hours, even with hearing protection. And it starts playing tricks on me. I'm convinced I'm out of tune, and it's just your brain messing with you.
I've been there. Yeah. But yeah, just quickly on the other two, and we'll move on. Signal chain, it makes a difference, but like to your overall sound in a mix, and like it's not that big of a deal. Like where you put your drive and your preamp, it matters, and I have an opinion on that, but I don't think it's. You'll be fine if you do it the other way around. You know, it's not.
It'll be okay. It's more of a stylistic choice, isn't it? Like, do I put the delay before the drive? That kind of thing. That's always a massive difference.
And tone woods, these things make difference, but these things make difference. I said these things make a difference, but if you're talking about a live sound here, like that's maybe like 0.1%.
Yeah, it's a contributing factor, but it's definitely not the main one, I'd say.
No, it's certainly at the bottom of this list. Not to say it's not like a thing, but it's not to be considered alongside these ones, I don't think, particularly.
No, I would agree too.
Shall we move on to the next question?
Yes.
Well, before we do that, Chris, I'll stop you there. Before we do that, I want to talk about patreon.com/ In the Pocket podcast. Yes, that is us. For as little as $1 per month, you can support us. We have 3 tiers available in which you can get a flurry of bonus content and also be entered into competitions. We're going to talk about the competitions in just a minute. Last week, as you know, we gave away the Squire Sonic to Alan, who has received it and is... Yes, I'm hope is going to enjoy that bass very much. I kind of miss it after doing a video on it.
That was quick.
It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always, every time.
Alan, can I have that back?
Yes. But one of those, if you have joined our $9 tier 3 to include in those giveaways, you also get a shout out in the episode itself. So are you ready for me to butcher everyone's names once again?
Yes, I remember you told me I was going to start doing this, but I'm so glad you've forgotten. So
please, no, I remember,
it.
but for smoothness, I'm gonna do it.
Oh yeah, don't ever rely on me for smoothness. I am crunchy peanut butter. Anyway, go on.
Okay, starting off, Sam Martins, Travis Williams. Welcome, Travis and Sam, by the way, new patrons. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, Travis. What a guy. Met Travis in the flesh at NAM at the Bass House. And thank you so much for signing up to the Patreon, my dude. Okayest Bassist on YouTube. Go and subscribe. Thomas Deans, Kaddish D. Radish, Michael Grandjean, Dan Granham, Eric Molyneux, Ryan Badarek, Charles Johnson, Dean Gordon, Daryl Hazelhurst Jevons, Duncan Watson, Emily Gonzalez, I. Ferris, Alan Wadey, Alexander Sean, Chris Morgan, Rob Bisbee, Eric Eichhorn, Justin A., Jonas on bass, Joost Kroon, Mark W., and Brett Linkowski. Touch wood, that was the best I've ever read that.
That is the best you've ever done it. Congratulations. Just clip this bit and just...
I thought you were going to say, just say it again. I missed it.
Sorry, mate. You cut out there. Could you just do all that again? Thank you, everyone. Thank you very, 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 very much. You warm my cold, dead heart.
Well, would you like, Chris, would you like my meat box?
Well, I am seeing you in less than 2 weeks, so yes, yes. I've been cold and lonely, so I'm ready for your meat box, Jonathan.
Well, you can finger some stones into this bad boy, because next up on the Patreon giveaway, we're going to be giving away the DoD meat box subsynth pedal. This is a speaker melter. This thing, my God, it's essentially like an octave pedal synth wave madness all in one. It's really, really cool pedal, and if you want to be in with the chance of winning this one, then go and enter our tier 3 Patreon. That is patreon.com/in the pocket podcast. Right, before we move on to the next bit, we do want to say that we're seeing each other in a couple of weeks, and that is for the Birmingham Guitar Show, where, yes, we are doing the first ever live In the Pocket podcast. OMG. How exciting.
How terrifying.
I know. If you go to our link tree, or I'll try and remember to put it in the comment of here, you can go and get tickets for the Saturday at 12. We are going to be on the Alliance stage at the Birmingham Guitar Show, joined by the lovely Ryan from Noisy Hammer, where we're going to be debuting their first ever bass amp whilst doing a little bit of a live episode special. It'll be a little bit different to what you normally see, but yeah, we would love to invite everybody here along to join us. Come hang out, see us on the Saturday, and chat to us afterwards. We'd absolutely love to see you all there. So make sure you go to the Birmingham Guitar Show. It's just called The Guitar Show. So just search Guitar Show Birmingham and it should come up, and you'll see our lovely faces, or just go to our link tree and get your tickets there. Oh, I'm so excited. So excited.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to it.
Mate,
yeah.
I can't wait. I think it's going to be awesome. We are doing the bass rig Wheel of Fortune Okay, we've not done this before. We've bought it. We've bought a big spinning wheel, and we are going to let fate decide what elements are going to build our rig. So, what pedals, what basses are we going to put through the Juno bass amp? So, yeah, watch this space.
Ooh, yeah.
Come see it for yourselves, peeps. Right, let's
Hell yeah.
let's move on to the next bit, shall we? Have you got the
Yes.
question right there?
I have. There were two, but I think we'll go for this one first, in my humble opinion. So, I would like to know about your experiences and opinions on dialing in a seemingly amazing tone at home by yourself versus it actually working in the context of a band or mix. We probably all fell for this. I know I have. I've fallen for this a lot. The question continues on. What are you looking for when crafting a sound? Do all bandmates understand the problem? Maybe any experience of getting help by a professional audio engineer to dial in a great sound for the whole band? So yeah, I think that to boil this question down into sort of like one sentence, it's, have you ever fallen for that sort of like pitfall of you've sorted a tone out at home that you think is amazing, and then actually it turns out in the real world, like in a mix, either live or recorded, it's just not worked. And how do we fix this? I have lots of thoughts.
Yeah. Well, do you want to start off with one of those thoughts?
Yes. Very simple. At home or when you're playing bass alone, you tend to want to take out too much mid-range and add in too much low end and too much high end. And then when you get to the gig, what you're left with is this really sort of quite not really noticeable bass sound that's really low and just like really low and rumbly to the point where it can actually be a bit unpleasant, and then super kind of like clicky and bright, and just it doesn't really seem to work. And then as soon as everything starts playing, you can't hear yourself. Sound engineer's turning you down because there's too much low end and too much treble, or they've started pulling some EQ moves out of nowhere that you have no control over, by the way, and the scooping out high end, the cutting low end because it's too boomy, and because you don't have any mid range, you kind of just disappear, and everything kind of suffers around it. And I've fallen for that loads. I literally fell for that all the time until literally late last year. I would say late last year, where basically podcast alumni, Eric, Swedish Eric, Uncle Eric, as I prefer to call him, basically made me a preset for a band I was playing with at the time, because I was having this problem, and the sound I wanted was this kind of like quite mid-range focused, quite a gnarly P-bass tone. Nothing crazy, nothing like, not trying to be Lemmy or anything like that, but this band had a lot of songs that were very like, the bass was clearly very dirty, and it was in there as kind of like a thickener for a lot of clean guitars. So what he did for me was he made me a quad cortex preset, which was one of the high watt heads with the treble rolled down and the mid range really high, and then the bass was kind of sat in the middle really. And then he ran it into a guitar cab, so I wasn't using a bass cab at all. And then there was a little bit of EQing, but again, that was mostly cutting excess low end and excess high end. And when you played it on your own, like in at home with headphones on or something like that, it was really thin, and you were thinking, what? There's no way this is going to work. Like, there's no balls. It's just not really. I'm not getting that whereas like if you scoop the mid range and boost the low end. But you've got to be aware of, it's physics time. You've got to be aware of the Fletcher-Munson curve.
Oh,
do you know what the Fletcher-Munson curve is, Johnny?
Obviously I do.
Of course, but for the sake of those who don't, I will explain it to you now. If I get the definition of this wrong, I really am sorry. But basically, what it means is, as things get louder, they, I believe, more low end and high end is essentially added in. as the volume increases.
Mm-hmm.
You've also got a thing where this is getting really complicated now, but I learned this off Amos Williams, who plays for Tesseract. Is that his
Yep.
surname?
Yep.
He talked about it in a really cool interview where he was basically explaining what I'm explaining now, where basically the human ear will fill in certain gaps in the frequency spectrum just naturally. And a lot of that is actually the low end. That's why like guitars at concerts, often when you hear them at sound check, they're quite thin and they just sound a bit nasally. But when everything else is added in, the sound is huge. And it's not necessarily because more low end is being added through other instruments. It's because our brains add in that missing subharmonics underneath specific harmonics within the spectrum of sort of live sound. So what that means is you can free up headroom by basically not having a bass tone as bass heavy as you would assume, because as you crank that sound up to a gig volume, more low end is going to appear perceived through the human ear. So that's basically what this preset was, and he was absolutely right. I used it when I opened for the Sex Pistols at Glasgow Academy. Big room, 2,500 people, bass tone. I A/B'd it between what I was using before and what Eric made for me, and just like thick. That's the only way I could describe it. There was just loads of me. Like all of a sudden, it was like there's two of me playing compared to previously, but I wasn't like dominating the headroom of the PA. There was loads of room. But yes, I'm very sorry to round that off into sort of one sentence. It's mid-range. You've not got enough mid-range. You're cutting it out because it sounds better scooped on its own. But when you get to a loud live music environment, mid-range is your friend. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
It used to be, that like, you'd be like, well, the guitars sit in the mid range, so you want to get out the way of that and be in the lows and the highs, but actually, you want to be blending in with them, not necessarily just getting out of their way entirely. For that to mix in nicely together, you need to be in the conversation.
In the conversation, that's a good way of putting it. Actually,
that's what this podcast in alternative universe is called. In the conversation. And that's
how about
that's
you
where
though?
You want to be.
Have you what about you? Have you fallen for the trap of? You must have like demoing things.
Oh,
been like, oh my god, this is the best pedal ever. This is the best my bass has ever sounded. And then you get to, you know what this is? Fuzz pedals.
Yeah, for me, it's drive pedals and fuzz pedals. Like many you use. That's why I sometimes like having a slightly distorted, clean sound for what I'm doing. I mean, it suits that, because then if you want a drive sound, your foundations are already driven, and so you're just kind of adding onto it rather than going, here's a thick, bassy, clean tone, and then you lose some of it from a drive pedal.
Well, that's because adding that bit of saturation is adding some more harmonic information. There's more harmonics in that tone, so as a result you're getting that extra little bit of mid-range, little extra bit of mid-range. That's why, like, when you see people doing like little recording demos and stuff for things, and then they add like a saturation plug-in, or they run it through something like a nice preamp, that's adding, it's enriching the sound with more harmonic information in terms of like saturation and valve drive, and that's what makes it more interesting. It's more, there's a bit more mid-range in there.
Yeah. Philip Conrad did a good video on saturation, and it's exactly that. It's like the difference of going just direct and through maybe like a nice preamp, because that's what it's doing. It's filling out that information around it, and making
seasoning
it warmer,
top.
Yum, and from demoing stuff at home, it happens all the time. I remember the Electro Harmonics bass Soul Food. I loved that sound of that pedal in that review. I thought it was awesome. And I was like, this is going straight on the board. Took it to a gig or took it to a practice, and it just really shat the bed. And I was like,
really?
Oh, this is not the same at all. But it's because at home you can, especially if you're using headphones, you can really, you're not getting that context realistically of a mix of a room, of what that's doing. So you're there just, again, scooping all of those mids and going, oh, wow, this sounds so thick. And some of the best tones that I've had in practice, the band stopped and I've then played in between and gone, oh God, that sounds awful. Or I'm really not happy with my sound. And then the band plays. I'm like, oh wow, this is perfect. It's because the bit I'm then hearing is the bit that's poking through the mix, it's getting through there. But when you hear it isolated, you're like, oh, brother,
Well, it's like the example that always springs to mind with me is like Billy Sheehan's isolated bass tone. Just when you listen to him play on his own, doesn't sound nice. I don't think it's really nasally and quite kind of thing. But that's because he has that upside down smiley face EQ where he's carving out excess treble, excess low end, pushing mid range, and then he's got the beaker face, and then nailed that face there, perfect. You actually froze for a second then on my end. So that's even funnier.
Really? Excellent.
Yeah, you're frozen again. And but when he plays with a band, obviously, Billy Sheehan's tone is massive. It's iconic how good his bass tone is. But again, on its own, not particularly great. So yeah, for me, fallen for that trap a lot. And the secret for me has always been: is there too much low end? Is there too much high end? Because that clicky sound might sound quite nice, isolated, just enough. But as the volume comes up, it can get quite piercing. And depending on the gig or depending on where you are, you might not necessarily have time to get rid of that. And the next thing you know, you're just getting turned down.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We want to be loud and present in the mix because our job is to bring so much body to a mix and really fill in that sound. So we're getting turned down because there's too much clickiness that's getting in the way of guitars, vocals, anything else. We're just kind of ruining our own fun there, I think.
Always bringing that body, oddy.
Absolutely. Does that answer the question sufficiently?
I think so. And it brings me nicely onto the next thing I want to talk about, actually, because we said about saturation and adding that kind of thing. And that is kind of the bit of gear that I want to talk about in that Tone You Own that I have received recently. I'm going to put it on screen now. And by put it on screen, I mean hold it up. This is the finally version 3 tube direct box from Sushi Box in collaboration with Philip Mann. This is essentially Chris has disappeared. He's unmanned. There he is. He's back. This is essentially you see this little window in here, little 12 UA7 tube that's sat, no, not 12. Yes, no, it is 12 UA7 valve sat in there. DI out, you can control the gain, you control the level, whether the tube's engaged or not. It's got a high pass filter that affects the DI out. Pretty cool. This is essentially like a saturation device where it is literally giving you that tube warmth. If you're using it with an amp, it can be used as just to push that point of breakup. So it doesn't it gains really easily, but it's if you have it really low on the gain, you can have it really just that point of breakup, really nice saturation that it adds to it, and it just makes it sound clearer as well. It's almost like a sonic maximizer at the same time, where it's making everything just sound more pristine and warm. But then equally, if you're using the DI out, you can put that high pass filter on it and control where that frequency is sitting. Philip Mann, who co-designed, this is his kind of signature version of this pedal from Sushi Box. He was saying that in all the theatre work that he does, he finds that he sometimes needs that high pass filter on the DI out, and then so he can control that and take off some of the low end. So he puts this at the end of his chain just to kind of tidy everything up at the end, which I think is very
true,
cool.
though. Yeah, that's so true with theatre work, because it's so much is going on in a theatre show or a musical or anything like that. you've got to occupy a set space. It really is great that you can get something like that to kind of like tidy up that sound, because I'm always cutting anywhere between like 40 and 80 hertz. I'm always messing with that little bit because it can be that rumble, especially again at like a live music volume. That sub frequency information is sometimes it's just too much at the end of the day. So being able to tighten that is like quite a good feature.
With great power comes great responsibility with the low
Absolutely.
end. You know, so you've got to be responsible with your hertz.
It's my favorite Star Wars quote.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
Should we have a listen to it now? I did a little demo of it on the Instagram today at time of recording. So let's have a quick look and listen to that. There we go. That was it. I think it sounds bloody lovely. It's very cool, and I'm excited to put it into a pedal board. Obviously, it's not got a switch, so it's just always on. There's no on and off with this, and that's why it's not really meant to be like a drive pedal, or like it's just meant to be, look, you put this on and it stays on, and it's just adding to the tone in a box. You know?
It's a very grown-up pedal. I like it. I like its practicality.
It is very grown up.
I would like to talk about something that is not very grown-up.
Please do.
Much unlike the sushi box. So we talked about it at the start of the episode. Like I said, the lovely Jordan Redlanders gave me one of these. This is not focusing. There it is. This is the Big Booty Judy from Backburner Noise. This is, like we said, this is essentially, I refer to it as like a rat tuned for a bass, like a bit more focused around the needs of a bass player. Because the problem with things like the rat is it just like kills a lot of low end. It takes a lot of low end out your signal. There's no blend on the like. I've used rat style things on like in my modelers and rat style pedals before, and they're really fun, but they're useless. Basically, it's not going to work. So that's why Jordan came up with something like this. Like we said at the start, we've got a volume, a drive, a blend, which is super important. And obviously the filter, which is like a really cool thing with the rat. It's not necessarily a boost, where it's like if you turn it all the way to the left, it's boosting low mid-range. If you turn it all the way to the right, it's boosting upper mid-range. This is a filter, so as you turn it, you're rolling off the high end, which is really cool because it means you can sort of you can blend in your clean tone, have this really sizzly, aggressive drive, which is obviously controllable with the drive section of the pedal, but like roll this back, and then rolling that back allows you to kind of like tame the aggression.
Yeah.
And obviously you can jump between. In the middle there, you'll see there is a section to go between a traditional rat circuit and the turbo rat. And I don't know about you, Johnny, but I prefer the Turbo Rat sound way more.
Yeah,
I have no interest in using the Rat side of it at all.
most times when I'm using this live, I use the turbo because I have had some occasions where I've used it as an always on, but most of the time it's a secondary drive where it's like, here we go, angry sounds.
And like this is a very versatile pedal. Like while I was messing around with it, I've done an Instagram reel, but I am going to do a YouTube video on this. I found that a really cool feature is the volume, the drive, and the blend all really lock in together. They're all you are rewarded for spending time balancing that volume, that drive, and that blend. Because as you move one, it does affect what you want to do with the other two, and vice versa. Whereas like some pedals, obviously, you set the blend and you're like, right, blend's done. Blend's at 40%. I'm not changing it. Yeah. And then the drive is the drive, how much saturate, how much drive you want. And then the volume just takes all of that up and down.
Yeah.
Whereas I felt like messing around with this, like, you know, bringing the blend up, but then taking the drive down and then compensating by really pushing the volume gave you this just pushed amp sound that was not too aggressive. But
that's literally the settings I have on here right now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I mostly run this pedal, is blend quite high up. So it's not taking over too much of the tone.
Yeah.
In Turbo Rat mode, drive not super gunned, and then adjusting the volume accordingly.
Very nice. I think I've put it back to where I had it on the Instagram reel, and you'll see it's a little bit different to how you had yours set. So I had the blend not super high up, so it's letting it.
That's pretty high.
No, where that's set, it's letting lots of my bass through.
Yeah, but that's set.
It kind of works
the blend.
Around.
Yeah, but I would say that the blend is high. Like,
okay, we'll go with that. And then the filter is rolling, if I remember correctly, quite a lot of that high-end information off. And I've just realised my autofocus is set slower to than what yours is, because it kind of kicks in really quickly and then takes a minute to reappear. But then what I was doing was I actually had the drive quite high, and then the volume was pushing it quite aggressively too, kind of just past 12 o'clock. And that was just sort of getting my Stingray sound into like an SVT and just making it really, really just naughty. That's how I could describe it. Like naughty. This pedal, I think this pedal's a very versatile pedal, but it's also very good at kind of, I just want some aggression and usable aggression, basically.
Yeah,
I really
100%.
Dig it.
I dig it, and it digs us. You know, it digs in. It is a beastly pedal, and it won't be leaving my board anytime soon. I don't think. It's very, very nice.
It's a good one. I haven't had a chance to try it with more than one bass yet. I just used it with the Stingray really quickly, but I am looking forward to kind of like going, well, how does it respond to like flats, and like what happens if I start, you know, jazz bass, P bass, that kind of thing. Shall we? Do you want to have a quick listen?
Yeah, let's have a quick listen. So good. Shall we go on to the next questionos?
Next and final question, actually. Ooh. This is a good one. Interesting topic that I don't think we've talked about before.
Not you and I. It's actually before you were here that we last discussed a topic similar to this.
Oh, yes, because you had a guest on who talked about this.
Yeah,
you did.
It's been interesting to talk about experiences since, and yours, obviously.
Yeah, of course. So interesting. We're getting a bit grown up now. I do apologise. Those who wanted to listen to fart jokes and distortion pedals, we'll see you in the next one. But this is about injuries of the soul. Right, so the question is, have you ever had to deal with injuries or pain while playing, and how did you manage to fix it? For context, hurt my shoulder and it made playing the full set gotten difficult. Got a better strap, which definitely helped. But had a load of gig dates in a row and found myself making adjustments to lines just to get through.
Thank you,
Yeah, bang
Dean,
on.
for your question.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Dean. Absolutely bang on. And the answer is yes. I've hurt myself playing musical instruments loads. And over time, I've had to refine things to kind of make life easier for me. Less so when I've done things with like my old bandala and stuff like that, where we're only playing for 30 minutes at a time, where it doesn't really matter. Do a bit of warming up and just get stuck in. But because of things like weddings and the corporate events I do, I'm playing for a long time. So as a result, if you're not, there's a couple of steps you need to be taking, because if you don't take them, as I've done several times, your body kind of just starts to let you down after a certain amount of time, and then your playing suffers and all that sort of stuff. You can get into a bit of pain. So yes, I'm very interested in talking about this. Jonny, do you want to go first? Thoughts on this?
Yeah, of course. I would love to. I've actually had some fairly recent injuries and pains when playing. I don't know if I have necessarily advice on fixing it. Well, I do. So there's three things that I can think of. Number one, start with the stupidest one, and that is I managed to grate some of my thumb off and give myself a big ouchie when making a sandwich. And grating some cheese. Here I go. And then my thumb comes off. Not the whole thing, obviously, but like it's a big slice, not just like a little grater, like big holes, in this cheese
big
grater.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
big chunks of thumb and skin. Go into there. And
then you formed Black Sabbath.
Yes, exactly. And now we're breaking up. And obviously really bloody hurt. But it meant that holding a pick or playing was horrible. And I was like, oh my God, I've got a gig in like 2 days. How the hell am I going to do this? And I was very lucky in that I just like plastered it up very quickly. First aid is obviously first bit of advice. And just prayed it was okay, and luckily it kind of healed up enough that the adrenaline like got me through and I didn't feel the pain during the show. But it definitely made me think, okay, I need to be really careful and cautious of my hands now. My mum has actually been suffering from carpal tunnel a little bit.
Ooh,
and that really worries me, because I'm like, ooh, that is something I do not want to occur down the line with me. And one thing that I actually think I'm trying to do this year is, and this is a silly one and doesn't seem related, but I think it will help and could help a lot of people maybe, is using my phone in bed. You weren't expecting me to say that, were you? I will go on my phone.
Keep talking.
I will go on my phone in bed looking at, I'm not going to tell you what I'm looking at. And the other hand's, going help. No, I mean, I'll be holding my phone like this and typing.
For those of you listening to this week's episode, what Jonny just did then was very naughty. Gestured. So I'll be holding traffic when someone is mean to you.
Yeah. I'll hold it like this, and all of a sudden, I'll put my phone down. I'm like, my hand is tingling. Like both my hands are like from this repetitive strain, where it's like it feels cold and tingle
in my right thumb. It's this move. Yeah, so that's why I've done the same. Like I've started using my phone sometimes like an old man. I'll hold it in the palm of my hand, and I'll one finger it, or I've started just like voice noting people even if it's just like a 10-second voice note. I'll start doing that instead. No, it's true though, because I'm on my phone a lot. Like I'm on my phone too much anyway.
Part of the bloody job.
It is. But then also I'll sit on TikTok for an hour before I go to bed. That kind of thing. Like there's too much phone usage at the best of times. But yeah, that's so true. And then a lot of bass players will suffer from the sort of like the chicken wing thing, where they where they play bass like this. The forearm is is straight, and then there's
Right.
a bend at the wrist. You know, as you're
Yeah.
over the body of your bass, you know, like this.
Yeah.
That is how carpal tunnel is caused, because it's this angle of the wrist being bent, and then the tendons, you can see them moving in my forearm as I do this. My hench forearms.
Wow.
Looking pale on the camera today, but you can see as the fingers are moving, these tendons are moving. But there's this choke point here in my wrist.
Right here.
Yeah. Hey, less of that. And
Yeah.
that's causing like stress and stuff. So it's thinking about things like that. Couple of injuries I've had is I've had the wrist one. I had that playing guitar once, where I genuinely just at home, I just dove into playing some acoustic guitar, and then 2 days later, my wrist and my forearm, all like sort of here, was killing me.
So
To
what
the
you're
point
saying
where,
is that you were at home
yep,
alone, and then
yep,
2 days later you had a guitar, in quotes, guitar wrist injury.
did I stutter? I said what I said, and that is the story I was sticking to. Please ignore the snorkel mask. Right. Anyway, so yeah, wrist injuries from not warming up. This is an interesting one. I've had my fingers like stop working, just like can't get them to like like it starts off as like latency. You know, while I'm trying to
Right.
play, I can feel I'm going like play the note now, and it's like the fatigue in my hand and forearm and wrist. It can't get the moving quick enough. There's like a lag, like the motor function is falling behind.
I had it earlier. I
Yeah.
was filming the demo for the sushi box pedal, and there was a bit I was trying to play that didn't end up in the video because I managed to fatigue myself so much that my hand was hurting, and I was like, "Oh, I've only been doing that for like 30 seconds, and now it's already hurting." And it just comes back to this thing.
You just dove straight in as well. You didn't warm up. But yeah, I've had that. But the reason why I had that was I'd been playing for 2 hours at this point. It's like a 2 hour straight through cover gig. And because there was like the monitoring was just not, there just wasn't enough basically. So I could hear myself. I was playing harder than I normally would have to try and hear myself in the PA. And obviously that's not going to help me because there's compression, there's all that sort of stuff. I'm just hitting the threshold of a compressor. I'm not getting any louder, but I'm trying to hear myself. So over the course of 2 hours, that sort of fatigue set in, and then my hands just weren't working properly. Other things like my right thumb is actually has been hurting quite a lot lately on this side because I've been trying to get a lot better at slap. And I'm I can see it now as I'm looking at it, like the callus is breaking in. Like I'm growing that callus on the side of my thumb as I'm learning to strike through the string. I'm doing like the string through the parallel method, where you kind of like not thumb up, not thumb down. You kind of like thumb alongside and you're coming through like that, trying to get that nice and clean. But that part of my thumb has never really hit the string before, ever, really. So that's kind of like fresh. It's like when you first start playing a musical instrument and your left hand is killing you because all of a sudden you're pushing the flesh of your fingertips into this metal, basically, and going, ow, why does this hurt? Metal. And then finally, the other one for me is I've hurt my hip in the past because what I've been doing, because I'm over 30. No, because what I've been doing is while I've been stood playing, I've been putting all of my body weight on, let's say, my right hip, and my right leg has been holding me up because my left foot has been like tapping, to keep the tempo. But all of my body weight is now running along my right hip and my right leg. And again, over time, like this, like a stress position, because that's what this is. Playing a musical instrument is a stress position at the end of the day. Like you're not really stood and sat in a way that your body's supposed to be. That's also why sitting at a chair for such a long period of time can be detrimental, because you're not really supposed to be like, the chair is not a natural occurring phenomenon. We built the chair. So yeah, the chair, we built the chair. Yeah, so a hip, stuff like that. But there are lots of things you can do to fix these kind of things. Go on, what are you going to say?
I was going to say, kind of closely related to the hip and about distributing weight is lifting things, you know, cabs,
Yes.
cabs. I'll just say that.
Cabs.
Need I say more? You know, cabs and stairs. Ugh. The cab I've got at the minute is a Ashdown 410. Sounds great. Love Ashdown, but it is a heavy beast. It's got wheels, thank goodness, but it's just such a slog getting it in and out of venues and the car, and it's killing me.
Yeah, getting that in a car on your own is very difficult because it's big as well. You've got to kind of like get around it and lift the handles up. But yeah, obviously one of the best ways to hurt your back is pick something up wrong. You know, bending over, putting all that body weight, putting all that weight on your lower back. You want to be leaning backwards,
and that's what I'm
the glutes.
And like we said, you know, both over 30 now, and the lower back pain is real. And I want to try and avoid that, obviously, because everyone always says, you know, stuff to do with your spine, your back. It's all about preventative care. And that's what most of the advice we can only give about these kind of injuries is how to prevent them. Because with back pain, sadly, once that happens, it's quite irreversible.
It's kind of locked in. Or like I pulled my back in early January in the gym, and that sat with me for nearly the entire month. Like, and it's the first time I've ever had like proper back pain where I'm like, actually like really hurts to walk around. So I've had to like quite aggressively change my workout plan to sort of make sure that it doesn't happen again. The main thing, a lot of these injuries and stuff that we've talked about, a lot of it is I really would recommend warming up. Now, it doesn't have to be I run scales for 2 minutes and then I do this for 1 minute and then I have this specific exercise. The best advice I'd give is, half an hour, even less, before you go on stage, even if you just sat talking to people or whatever, just have the instrument in your hand and just play anything. Doesn't have to be a scale, doesn't even have to be in tune or in time. Just have your hands working on the instrument. You know, lots of things are opening and closing your hands. Don't do too much of like aggressive stretching of the wrists. I remember a few years ago, this must have been a long time. So when I had a subscription to Scott's Bass Lessons, they had a course with a physio talking about basically injuries of the neck, the shoulders, the hands, and what you can do to avoid them. And one of the things this physio said was, you see people doing this, you know, where for those of you listening, you know, you hold your hand out, you grab it with your other hand, and you bend your wrist backwards like this and get that stretch across your palm and down into the underside of your forearm. Don't do that. It's not necessary. It's too much of it's not a natural occurring stretch for that arm to do. Don't do that.
Too much.
Things like rolling your wrists around, opening and closing your hands. That's all I do. Before I go on stage, I'm doing lots of this. You know, I'm opening and closing both hands. I'm rotating my wrists. I'm just getting blood flow into the fingers. And then while I'm holding my bass, maybe like 15 minutes, ideally half an hour, while we're just sat talking and messing around, I'm just moving up and down the neck. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not consciously thinking of going, I'll play a C major scale, you know, or I'll play I Want You Back, the bass line by Jackson 5 or anything like that, or I'll do Seven Nation Army. Not thinking about that.
I can't play that. It's too difficult.
No, that's fair. It's totally fair, man. Just messing around, just get that blood flow into your fingers, and then when you go on stage, you're not going in cold, because it's always injuries occur, not just in musical instruments, but in the gym. Like if you go into the gym and go and stick 110 kilos on a squat rack, or suddenly pick up a 20 kilo dumbbell and just go for it, your muscles are cold. They've been doing slow movements all day, and then all of a sudden you've gone and you've thrown this stress, this physical stress on the muscles and the joints. That's how you hurt yourself.
If someone's going to throw a ball at you, do you want to be like this, ready to catch it, or do you want to be looking the other way?
Exactly.
You know, like it's like that. For me, I actually had it at the last gig I played. I got really worried because during sound check, I threw my shoulder out. Never, ever injured my shoulder before, ever.
Ooh,
I totally forgot about this.
Right.
Never hurt it before. And I don't know what it was. I didn't know where I put the bass on or what something I did. And I was just like, oh my God, that really hurts. And then I was like, oh, this is really going to impact my performance. Like I can still play, but I'm not going to be able to like move around like I normally might do or like do that, because I'm a lot of pain right now. And luckily it was like 4 hours until the show started. That I did this in soundcheck. And I decided to then warm up backstage. I took the Ampeg Amplug 3 with me and just plugged it in headphones and was just playing the bass for like half an hour before we went on. And yeah, really helped because I was able to warm up a little bit more. I wasn't using massive shoulder movement in doing that, but it definitely helped to get me in that zone, be more ready to play. So yeah, it can happen in weird moments. I can feel my knees make awful sounds, and I'm like, ooh, should probably look at that at some point.
Yeah, you should probably look at that. I'd recommend it. Get some weightlifting. Come on, put your entire personality into how much weight you lifted that week. That's what I'm doing, and it's great.
It's bleeding through to this podcast.
Sorry, yeah, this is going to become a gym bro podcast soon. I'm wearing like stringer vests, like
Huel.
Use code. Oh, not Huel. No. We're not doing that. Use code that guy on bass at myprotein.com.
Oh,
get us a Gymshark endorsement. I've got some protein for you.
Wow.
Oh wow. God. Anyway,
that sounds like an excellent time to finish a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah,
as we mean to go on.
There's been a suitable degradation in the quality of the conversation, so I think that's a good time to wrap it up.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Like we keep banging on about, and we're going to do it until you're sick of it, is patreon.com/In the Pocket podcast, where you can join us either to just give us a little monthly donation, money you wouldn't notice fall out of your wallet, or up to $9 per month, where you can enter awesome competitions and win gear like a new bass or a new pedal, that being the DoD meat box for our next giveaway. Details of the date of which we'll be giving that away will be coming out very soon. Make sure you go and get your tickets for the live show, and of course go and follow us on Instagram and subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't done so already, even if you don't watch it. The best way to consume the podcast, of course, is to watch it, but I know a lot of you listen, and that is absolutely fine. We love you. If you are listening, you need to rate this podcast 5 stars on your listening platform of choice. Yes, please. That would be lovely. It helps us reach more people, helps us get more guests on. Speaking of guests, during this episode, we have been posting who our next guest is going to be. We're going to have the lovely Shea, who is from Gorillaz. The guy who plays Feel Good Inc. live. Oh my God. Shea, if you follow him on Instagram, is just such a genuine, nice seeming guy who I'm looking forward to trading bass stories with him on the next episode of In the Pocket. It's going to be very, very exciting indeed. So make sure you head to our Instagram to go and follow him, go and check it out. Chris, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me everywhere at That Guy on Bass. Instagram, YouTube. Drop me a subscribe on YouTube, please. I've been doing some YouTube videos. Have I done 3 now? Or have I done 2? I think I've done 2. Yes, I've done 2. Wow. Can't even remember that. But I'm going to shoot a 3rd one ahead of the Birmingham Guitar Show, like we talked about. I'm going to do demo/review of the big Butte Jude, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Jonny, how about you?
Beautiful. You can find me at Jonny Dibble on Instagram, and exactly the same, yes please, on YouTube. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.